Hey guys, Dan here alongside Tim over Zoom. Hey Tim.
Hi, everybody.
It is time once again for Dan Does Disney. We are in 1963. This movie came out in July 7th, actually. So we're almost to the anniversary here. The 59th anniversary or something of this movie.
Would it be 59
or 60 or right? 59, right? All right. So Tim, tell us what this movie is called, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, it's called Summer Magic, and we don't have a DVD to hold up. It's not available anywhere.
No, and it used to be part of the Disney Movie Club, but it's not available there anymore. And Amazon, there aren't really any like used copies you could buy. So it does exist somewhere on DVD. But for our purposes, we rented it off of Amazon and watched it that way, which most of these you're able to do if you can't get the DVD or if they're not on Disney Plus, which this one is not. And if I remember correctly, this is the last one from 63 that's not on Disney Plus, right?
Yes, because there's 6 movies of 63. This is the 4th one that we're talking about. The next 2, one's going to be live action, and that is The Incredible Journey, which was remade into Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey in the 90s, I guess that was. And then the last one is the animated movie, which is The Sword and the Stone. And of course, they're going to have that one on Disney Plus.
Yeah. So this is the last one we had to sort of scrounge for. But all right, so this one made 4.3 million at the box office domestically. Hayley Mills is the star of this, which of course Tim will get into all the details of the acting, but she later said that it was the worst of her movies that she made for Disney. So we'll see what me and Tim think of it. And at the time Summer Magic was released, Tim, I found actually a lot of tidbits about this movie. And we'll get into who was supposed to be in it. But at the time that this was released, Hayley Mills was receiving more fan mail than any motion picture star in the world.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the past. After Parent Trap, she responded to all of her fan mail because of her doppelganger, her body double for Parent Trap got into a movie with Elvis or something like that, and something about her fan mail, like she was like she was a big Elvis fan, and somehow because she didn't get into an Elvis movie, then she would always answer all of her fan mail. So I don't know if she was answering her fan mail at this point, but
I would say no, because apparently she was getting some 7,500 letters every month.
Okay.
So I would say probably not at this point she wasn't, but yeah, I'm sure for a while she was.
Because I think that Elvis movie is a little bit later than this. So in a couple years, when that Elvis movie comes out, after that, she started answering all of her fan mail.
Well, and hopefully by then it died down a little bit. Because I feel like we've already watched, I guess, the most famous of her movies, so that sort of makes sense. But anyway, so this movie Summer Magic was based on the novel Mother Carries Chickens by Kate Douglas Wiggin, and adapted for the screen by Sally Benson, whose semi-autobiographical stories formed the basis for the Judy Garland movie Meet Me in St. Louis in 1944. And this Benson also co-wrote Hitchcock's 1943 movie Shadow of a Doubt. So she had some work way before this. That was 2 decades earlier. So in 1961, this was going to be an original story for the Disney World of Color series, which is what Disneyland became. However, once it started going through the scripting process and stuff, Walt decided, you know what, let's do this as a theatrical feature. And it was developed for Annette Funicello, who we've seen, I believe, only in 2 movies so far.
I think so.
Right? We saw The Babes in Toyland, of course.
Toyland, and she was a minor role in Shaggy Dog. Although she also was in, I think, like a direct-to-TV movie with Tommy Kirk called like Escapade in, like, I think Florence or something like that, and that had come out by now. But that was and that all makes sense because, of course, she was a very famous Mouseketeer, probably one of the 2 most famous ones back then, anyway. But anyway, at the time, Annette was like waiting around basically for Walt to give her a script
So she ended up taking a role opposite Frankie Avalon in Beach Party for American International Pictures. And that's where she would stay for a long time. She ended up being very known for her beach movies. And so Walt was kind of upset that she took that gig, and so brought in Hayley Mills. But that Beach Party movie was a big old hit, so that studio signed her up for more and more pictures. And eventually at that studio, Tommy Kirk would do a movie with her, I think in the late 60s. So they would reunite again after they both kind of left Disney. But I think we do see Annette again, right?
Yeah, I believe she's in a movie with Tommy Kirk called I think it's The Misadventures of Merlin Jones. And the sequel, I don't know if she's in the sequel. I imagine she's in the sequel. They brought Tommy Kirk back for the sequel, which is Monkey's Uncle.
Okay. So yeah, that'll be coming up in the later 60s. Okay, so we have I have a couple other things about the actors and stuff. We can get into that. But this movie was shot almost entirely on the back lot of the Disney Studios in Burbank. And Peter Ellenshaw, of course, did all of his famous matte work, providing the illusion of them being in Maine at the turn of the century. And originally this was intended not only for Annette Funicello, but even before that, this was going to be a straight ahead drama. And then once they got Burl Ives involved, which you and I know from So Dear to My Heart.
Yep.
But of course I know him just from being an old time crooner. He was like, well, if Ives is in it, we got to have a bunch of songs. So they got the Sherman Brothers brought onto the project, and they wrote 7 songs for this movie, including Robert Sherman's favorite of all time that he ever wrote for a Disney movie, On the Front Porch, which I think is a pretty good one. I'm not sure if it's my favorite in this movie, but I like it.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, it was fine, and it was sung well, of course, with Burl Ives. But this is kind of interesting that none of the songs in here are as choreographed dance numbers. They're all sort of just sitting around, singing, crooning, whatever. But there's, unlike Babes in Toyland or whatever, where there's a lot of dancing, which is interesting. I don't know if that was because Annette sort of dropped out, because I feel like she was definitely known more for her singing and dancing, whereas Hayley Mills, is not even really known for her singing, but she can sing. We've seen that. So I don't know when they decided to sort of make that adjustment, but
I would imagine that it was when they got Burl Ives in, because from So Dear to My Heart, that's kind of what he did. He would sit around and sing. He sang the song that got nominated for best song, was it like Blue Lavender or something like that? I forget what it was. Blue something or other.
Yeah.
But that was him like singing in like the cottage with the grandma or something like that. And then he sang a lot, like driving the wagon a lot. And I
feel like that's what all those crooners did. Like if you think about the people of the day, it was like, Sinatra and Bing Crosby, they weren't like song and dance men. They just sort of sang. So I guess that does make sense. But then there's another song, Ugly Bug Ball, that Disney didn't really like because it had the word ugly in it. He didn't care for that. But it went on to become one of the more popular songs of the year in the UK. And then speaking of the music, there was actually no soundtrack to this movie, but they did in the recording studio, they did an original cast album that Disney put out featuring everybody from the movie except for Dorothy McGuire. For whatever reason, wasn't part of it, maybe scheduling conflicts. So Marilyn Hooven sang all of her parts. So, all right, well, I've talked enough. I have a few more things about the actors and about Disney World and Disneyland. But Tim, let's talk about the plot and such of Summer Magic.
Well, just so you know, Dorothy McGuire didn't sing her songs in the movie.
She didn't sing in the movie either?
Oh, her vocals were dubbed by Marilyn Hoover. So that's why.
Oh, okay. That's funny that the article about the album specifically said that then, if she already did the parts in the movie. Okay, so it is everybody from the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like Dan said, this is based on Mother Carries Chickens by Kate Douglas Wiggins. And it's about an early 1900s Boston widow and her 3 children taking up residence in a small town in Maine. Postmaster Osh helps them move into the Yellow House and allows them to fix up the rundown house while their owner, Mr. Hamilton, is away in Europe. However, Osh might not be keeping Mr. Hamilton up to date with all the changes, and that's the premise of this movie. There's a lot of love interactions and paranormal things like that. And our cast has Hayley Mills. She plays Nancy Carey. She's the oldest of the three children. This is her fourth of 6 movies. The last one we saw was In Search of Castaways, and as you know, she's been doing one a year. And then her next one, which will be 64, is Moon Spinner, or Moon Spinners. And that's the one that we talked about a couple of movies ago, where she's going to get her first on-screen kiss. And she was nominated for a Golden Globe for this movie, for a comedy or musical. I believe this is the only Golden Globe that she's been nominated for. I mean, she won the break, or she was nominated for like the best young actor or something like that, breakthrough actor for Parent Trap, I believe. Or
well, I think she was at the Oscars. I think she was the last one that they had for the Juvenile Award, right? Yeah.
I don't won, but I think she was nominated.
Well, no, I don't think they did nominations. I think they just gave it to whoever they gave it to.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so I think she did win it.
Okay. But I think this might be her only Golden Globe. Dorothy McGuire, she plays Margaret Carey. She's the widow mother. She's been in 2 Disney movies. Swiss Family Robinson was the last thing we saw her in, and then she was in Old Yeller. And I guess we didn't really talk about this, but this is probably why she wasn't in Savage Sam, is she was probably filming this movie.
Yeah, we didn't know when we did Savage Sam that she would be in this one. That's true.
And this is her last Disney movie. And probably mentioned this before, but she is an Oscar-nominated actress for supporting for Gentleman's Agreement in 47. We have Burl Ives. He plays Osh Popham. And we last saw him in So Dear to My Heart, which we mentioned before. And that was in 48. So that was a while ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Many videos ago. And this is, I believe, his last Disney role. I didn't see anything else. And he is an Oscar winner for supporting actor for The Big Country, which came out in 58. So since the last time we saw him in the movie, he's won an Oscar. And then we have Deborah Wally. She plays Julia Carey, and she is the cousin. She comes in about halfway through the movie and starts living with them. We last saw her in Bon Voyage in 62. And I believe this is her last Disney movie role. We talked about her a little bit in Bon Voyage. She was in Gidget Goes to Hawaii. She played Gidget in that movie. She goes on to be in Beach Blanket Bingo with Annette Funicello. And she does do various voices on a couple episodes of Chippendale's Rescue Rangers later in her career. So that's the only other Disney connection that I found. We have Una Merkel. She plays Mariah Popham, Osh's wife. We last saw her in Parent Trap in 61 with Hayley Mills. She played like the housekeeper. And we'll next see her in A Tiger Walks in 64. And she's also Oscar nominated for supporting for Summer Smoke in 61. We have Eddie Hodges. He plays Gilly Carey, which is the younger brother of Hayley Mills' character. And this is his first Disney movie, and we'll next see him in Happiest Millionaire. I believe that might be his last one, and that's in 67. So that's a good couple years away. And fun fact, that is the last live action movie that Walt had his hands in production wise. He passed away during Millionaire right after they stopped filming and started going into post-production.
When about Eddie, he was more known for the song and dance man thing on Broadway. He originated one of the big roles in The Music Man.
Okay.
So that's kind of where he's from. And then his first film, which was called A Hole in the Head, saw him singing High Hopes with Frank Sinatra. So that's more what he's known for is the singing. So that's probably why they brought him onto this.
Yeah, and they did that in the past with the younger brother in the last Hayley Mills movie.
That's
pulled,
right.
pulled him from Oliver after the Hayley Mills' mother said that her younger brother couldn't do the role. They pulled the kid in from Oliver on Broadway.
That's right.
So that's not uncommon for Disney to do. We have Peter Brown. He plays the mysterious Tom Hamilton. And I think this is his first Disney movie, and we'll next see him in A Tiger Walks in 1964. Rounding out the cast, we have James Stacey. He plays Charles Bryant. He's the love interest to Deborah Wally's character. And we have James Mathers. He plays the youngest brother, Peter Carey. I didn't really see much other in both of those acting career.
Well, I have a couple of things on both of them. So Mathers is the younger brother of Jerry Mathers, who played Beaver on Leave It to Beaver. So, and which is interesting because we've seen a couple of movies directed by Norman Tokar, who got his start doing the Beaver Show.
Okay.
So that's sort of that connection. And then James Stacey, listen to this one. So in 1995, he was sentenced to a 6-year prison term for molesting an 11-year-old girl.
Oh.
So, so interesting knowing that, to kind of see him play the teacher here in this movie. He was in a motorcycle accident in 1973 that took an arm and a leg from him. And then after his arrest and stuff, that obviously put an end to his acting career. But Quentin Tarantino, you know how he loves Hollywood mythos and stuff. This James Stacey was portrayed by Timothy Olyphant in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh.
So, yeah. So a little bit of an interesting sort of meta connection there with some other movie stuff. Yeah.
And so this was directed by James Nielsen. He directed Moon Pilot and Bon Voyage, 2 Disney movies that we've already reviewed. Next up for him, for the feature film wise, we have Moon Spinners, which is the next Hayley Mills. And then we've talked about this a couple times, but he is director of this elusive Dr. Sin, alias the Scarecrow, direct to TV movie that we've found out through a game that we played that we never heard of as a Disney movie. But this is the director, and that comes out to TV in 1963, which is the current year that we're doing. So,
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Tim, I think I have that though on one of those like Walt Disney Treasure box sets. I'll have to look. I mean, maybe we could do like, a half an episode, like a Dan Does Disney's 65 and a half or something.
Yeah.
Because we talk about that all the time.
Yeah. Because I would never, if I heard that title, I would never think it was a Disney movie.
Right.
So you already mentioned Annette Funicello, and this is Hayley Mills' least favorite of her acting roles, which is odd because she did get nominated for a Golden Globe. You didn't mention that when you talked about Sally Benson, about her doing the screenplay for this, you didn't say that Mutiny St. Louis is similarly themed to this movie.
Well, it is, yes. I have never seen it, but I know that it does take place around the turn of the century. Judy Garland, obviously, it's a musical with her involved. Other than that, I don't know much about it though. So
yeah, that's only a thing I've read. It was like similarly themed, and I was like, oh well, okay. She's taken from what she knows. Yeah. And when you mentioned Ugly Bug Ball, I think that was my favorite song.
I think it was actually my favorite song too. It was very catchy. I could see how it was a big pop hit over in the UK.
Yeah, it was very. I didn't like what they did with it though. I didn't like how they took basically a whole bunch of like true life adventure bugs and just spliced it over top of Burl Ives singing.
All right. Here's the deal. Hayley Mills said this was her least favorite. So far, of the ones we've seen, it is my least favorite of her movies. I have a lot of negative things to say about this movie, but my grade is more average than it would appear, because there are things I liked about it, but I had a lot of issues with this movie. But that is definitely one of them. The footage while he was singing the Ugly Bug Ball, it was lifted right from leftover scenes from different true life adventures.
I don't even know if they were left over. They could have been repurposed.
They could have been. I mean, we saw them so long ago, and people going to see this movie saw them even longer ago. But yeah, I mean that part was really bad. There were a few things about this that I just thought were bad.
But I will say that I do agree there's a lot of bad things in this movie, but I do think the songs are all pretty good.
Yes, and this is like almost peak Sherman Brothers because we're almost to Mary Poppins. Yeah. So like they're riding the wave here. Yeah, I would say most of the songs are pretty good.
Yeah, the seven you have Flittering, Beautiful,
the feminine one though I didn't care for.
Summer Magic, Pink of Perfection, Ugly Bug Ball, On the Front Porch, and Femininity, which is the last one.
Yeah, Femininity doesn't date too well. In 2022, it's, but look, I guess that's what they did back in the day. You got to, spruce yourself up for your man and he'll like you, and that's your work.
Do you think in context of when this came out, do you think that was like kind of like a cutting edge song? Like,
no, because I feel like we're right on the cusp of like the Equal Rights Amendment, the feminine movement. I mean, that happened like in the late 60s, early 70s. I think this song, I mean, I guess if we're taking it in context of the movie takes place in 1910 or whatever, all right, I guess so. Yeah. But even in terms of like the catchiness of it, I don't think it is as good as a lot of the other songs.
Yeah.
That was not even one of my big issues with it. I mean, it was fine. I think the songs are one of the strongest parts of it.
I do think the most part, the acting was pretty solid.
Okay, well, that's good that you said that, because I was just about to make the point that Jerry Mather's little brother is like Kevin Corcoran level at his absolute worst. He was so irritating. I was very glad they cut his hair like a half hour in. That haircut made me want to punch him out.
Yes.
It was so like unflattering. I guess that's what farm kids wore in the 1900s. I don't know, but I feel like we've seen a lot of like period movies where little kids don't have hair like that. Like it was just atrocious. So I'm glad they cut the hair. And actually that was kind of a good scene. He like snuck in for the haircut, and he was trying to get the barber was trying to get this guy to pay for 5 haircuts, but he only had 4 kids, whatever. That part was all right. But his acting was horrible the whole movie, haircut or no.
I thought some of the scenes with like when he was talking with Burl Ives, like with the haircut scene and with the Ugly Bug Ball before that, I thought those were probably his 2 better scenes, but everything else was pretty bad.
Yeah, I would agree with that. His chemistry with Ives was good. As we saw, was so dear to my heart. Burl Ives is great with kids. But yeah, like anytime they were like in the house, or the siblings were talking, or the player piano was going, he was just so irritating.
But luckily, he's not a main focus of this movie.
No, he's not. He's not. That's true.
Like for the second half of the movie, he completely disappears until like one final scene, I feel like.
Which I was fine with.
Yeah.
But then you have, okay, so Hayley Mills, look, I love her. She's great. We know this. But is it not odd that she's never been asked to change her British accent? She, like, this movie, it stuck out to me because of the era that we're supposed to be in. This is supposed to be like a farm family. First of all, nobody looks alike. This does not look like any kind of family that you would ever see. But her British accent in this particular film, I thought was more out of place than most. I don't know. I get it, I suppose. Maybe she doesn't do a good American accent, but like,
I think she does, because we talked about it for Parent Trap, how she basically had the same accent for both of the people, though I did read when we were talking about that, like she did work on some stuff that like where's like a little bit of difference for the two characters, but I thought it was basically the same accent.
Yeah, and from what we've seen, in our era here, maybe not so much, I guess, with child actors and actresses, but I mean, people can, switch those accents on a dime. I feel like an accent coach might have been able to help her out because her acting's good and her singing voice is fine. I don't know if it's as good as Annette Funicello's, but it's certainly acceptable. But in this particular movie, the accent was just like it stuck out like a sore thumb to me.
I think this is the fourth Hayley Mills movie I've seen, so I'm used to it. So it didn't bother me. And I thought her acting was good. And I thought, yes, the family doesn't look very similar, but I thought the mom, Hayley Mills, the Eddie kid, they all did good. I thought Deborah Wally did great as the cousin for acting wise, and Burl Ives and Una Merkel as the Pahams were great. The one son of Osh there, he was a little weird. Darby. Yeah. I didn't write down the actor's name for that, but I thought his daughter did okay as well. Like the love interest for Eddie.
Yeah, she was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then okay, so let's talk about the whole romance situation. So yeah, like this movie, and you kind of said it in your plot synopsis. This is a light on plot movie.
Yeah.
The fact that this is an hour and 50 minutes and like generally nothing really happens except for a few songs. I don't know. I get what they were doing. It's a light summer movie. We see a lot of movies these days that come out in the summer that are just designed to get butts in seats and in the nice air conditioning, and they don't maybe need much more than that. But even in some of the really like lighter Disney stuff we've seen, I feel like there was more of a plot than this.
Yeah, the plot isn't really there. It's just kind of like everybody's like pairing up, and Hayley Mills is slightly jealous of her cousin. That's the most drama that we get, and Osh just keeps lying about how he's talking to Mr. Hamilton, and then it all gets confusing at the end for like about what's going on type of thing.
Yeah.
And then I did think like it did end very abruptly for us, like dragging these love stories on for like so long. It did just kind of like, oh, and we're done, and we're gonna
yeah. And here's the thing, like, and I said this going into it, I'm heaping a lot of negatives on. I don't regret watching it. I think it's a fun little summer movie, but it's so very slight in like every way, that I can't give it, much more than a very average grade. But I do admit Hayley Mills is always great to watch on the screen. I hated the accent as this character, but you forgive it because she's Hayley Mills. She's so adorable. I like the croquet scene. I like some of her, music numbers. But I at the end of it, I was just like, okay, like who cares really about anything in this movie except for a couple of the songs.
Yeah. I will point out that there are some Bible quotes in this movie, and it's on Disney Plus, which is my big conspiracy theory of the whole Bible and Disney Plus type of thing.
Is this the only Hayley Mills not on?
No, In Search of Castaways also wasn't on.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Moon Spinners is either. No, Moon Spinners is on there.
Yeah, Moon Spinners is. All right. Well, maybe when they were searching for the castaways, they were calling out to the Lord, and who knows?
There's been plenty of other movies not on Disney Plus that did not have a Bible theme. There was a good chunk there in the 50s that did have. If it was like one Bible mention, it was like, oh, we can't have it on Disney Plus.
That is weird. But okay. So before we grade things, I do want to say it is a little weird to me that this isn't on Disney Plus, because for all the movies we've done in the last probably couple of years, I feel like this one has the biggest Disney World and Disneyland connections. So in Main Street USA, at all the Disney parks, the loop of songs that they do has two instrumental versions of songs. Beautiful Beulah and Flittering are both used in instrumental versions, and it used to have Summer Magic as well, and then they recently changed that to music from the Up movie on Pixar. And then during the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party in Fantasyland, they use the Ugly Bug Ball. So like there's songs throughout the park from this movie. And then in one of the like stores called the Emporium, it says Osh Popham is listed as the proprietor of the merchandise store, which obviously is from the Burl Ives character in this movie. And then in California, Frontierland has one of the actual paintings that Osh Popham considered for the portrait.
Yeah.
So like this movie is kind of all around the parks for something that really no one's heard of and isn't on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and like it made like what you said, $4 million or something like that.
Yeah, 4.3. Like that's not bad for 63.
Yeah, and I can't imagine they spent that much money on this.
Right.
Like, it's not like they did a location or anything like that. It was all in the back lot type of thing. So I am surprised that it's not on Disney Plus. But I mean, it is a very average movie, but we've had other just average movies on Disney Plus as well. So
yeah, we've seen many, old and new, really. But all right, so overall, I think you're probably a little bit higher than me. Like with some of these movies, I guess because some of the songs were pretty good, and I always love a good Mills. I'll leave it with a C.
I'm going to give it a C as well.
Okay, I really was going to give it a C minus, and then I do like some of those songs, so I'll bump it up a bit for that.
Mainly, it's because of the songs and the acting, and it's kind of like a feel goody movie. I felt like it made me feel good watching it, and yes, there wasn't much plot to it, but at the end of the day, I don't regret watching it. So I can't.
And I think if in summer 63 you don't have air conditioning, oh come on kids, let's go to the movies. I don't think you'd regret paying your dollar or whatever it was, 50 cents for a ticket to see this. But yeah, it wraps up very oddly after all this nothing build up, and yeah, it's got problems for sure. But of all the sort of average ones we've had, this is one of my favorites that we've watched.
Yeah, like
in an odd way.
Between this and Almost Angels, I'd probably watch this again.
Was that the one with the choir?
Yes.
That's exactly the one. I couldn't think of the name of it, but that's the one I was thinking of that I was comparing it to. Like, yeah, I would definitely, I think it's probably, we gave the same grades or something, but yeah, I would definitely rather watch this one again than that for sure. So, all right. So up next, you mentioned the next two we're going to be doing. One is the live action. One is the Old Sword and the Stone. An Incredible Journey is the live one. And then we'll be getting into 64.
Yeah, which I believe we've already mentioned. A Tiger Walks, that's in 64. I believe The Mist Adventures of Merlin Jones is also in 64. Moon Spinners is also 64. And then
Poppins.
And Mary Poppins.
The best picture winner of 64.
I think there's about 7 movies in 64. I can't name them all right now. But I think about half of them are on Disney Plus. I think the first 3 are not on Disney Plus, and then the last 4 are.
Okay. Well, we'll have to do some DVD swaps at some point, I guess. All right. Well, Tim, thanks as always for joining, and we'll see everybody next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.